I'm really excited about this Beyond Organic movement, and really a movement is what it is. You know, you think about all the different companies out there and some of their mission statements, and the thing that I love about Beyond Organic is it's all about a mission. It's about changing lives, transforming the world, and I know that I couldn't be more excited to be part of it. And you can see really the mission statement up here. It says, change your diet, change your life, change your world. And really, I've seen that in the past several years as being a physician. You know, I've seen people who have gone and just made some small dietary changes, and because of it, it literally transformed their health forever. You know, just to give you a few stats, 66% of Americans are overweight, 34% of those being obese, which means that, you know, their life is actually starting to be threatened because they're so far overweight. 16% of children are obese today. Diabetes has tripled in the past 10 years. And just overall in America, there are a lot of sick people. And so really, there's companies just need to start stepping up, like Beyond Organic, and helping people transform their health. And again, that's what Beyond Organic is doing. And so anyways, we really have a great opportunity to literally be heroes for people and helping with their health. And so as I go through Beyond Organic now, I'm going to talk about some of the foods, some of the health benefits, and some of the ways that we can all participate in being part of the Beyond Organic movement. And just to kind of give you guys a quick personal story as well, you know, really what got me into health was a family member of mine being sick. I have a mom who was with breast cancer 17 years ago, and at the time it was crazy for our family because my mom was my gym teacher at school. She was a swim instructor. We just thought she was like the role model of health. But again, diagnosed breast cancer, 40 years old, and at the time our family lived in that traditional medical system. She went through all the traditional therapies. She had a mastectomy, went through rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds of chemotherapy. And I still remember to this day being a kid and going into the bathroom and just seeing chunks of hair all over the sink. I remember looking at her one day and thinking she had aged 20 years in 2 weeks and just saying to myself, I never want to see anyone have to go through this again. And praise God, you know, God brought us through it. But for the next 10 years, my mom was actually sicker than ever. She spent half of her life in bed, had chronic fatigue, depression, no energy whatsoever, and really was miserable. And then finally, about 7 years ago, I get a call from her, and she calls me to tell me that the doctors have just told her that she has tumors on her lungs, cysts on her liver. She's very, very sick, and actually the doctors were thinking it was cancer, and they wanted to go in and do surgery and then start doing radiation treatments. And she called me up, and she said, what do I do? And I said, Mom, I'll be home. I flew home. And I sat down with her. I said, Mom, I think you need to consider taking care of your body naturally, changing your diet. And that's what she decided to do. We started eating foods like fermented dairy, like kefir. We'd actually drive an hour out in the country, get kefir, and we would do that. She was eating wild berries and kale, and just basically eating what I consider to be a superfood diet. Also, you know, we were praying for her. We were doing everything we possibly could to get her healthy. And I can tell you, after a few months, she was starting to notice some big changes in her body, energy going up, color coming back. After 4 months, we went back to her doctor, and they did a CT scan. And the doctor calls us, and he said, what have you been doing? And we said, well, this is what we've been doing. And he said, well, the tumors have shrunk in half. So he said, keep doing what you're doing. And about a year later, we went back again in almost complete remission. And today, my mom's 58 years old, best shape of her life. She actually just ran a 5K recently, got second in her age group again at 58 years old. And really, she says she's healthier today now than she was when she was 40 years old. And so, you know, when I'm saying that, it's not to make any certain claims, but I can tell you this. When you're eating the food that God created for you to eat on a daily basis, you're going to be the healthiest you can possibly be. And so for my mom, again, it has literally brought her from death to life and helped heal her body. And Jordan Rubin, who's the founder of Beyond Organic, has a similar story. You know, Jordan, while he was in college at Florida State University, was diagnosed with a condition known as Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. That's severe inflammation of the intestines. He got so sick that he actually had to drop out of school, lost about 70 pounds, got to the point where he was about 100 pounds, went from 180 to 100 pounds on his deathbed, had rheumatoid arthritis, again, severe digestive distress, pain throughout his entire body. It got so bad he had to be in a wheelchair and just totally disabled. And he traveled around to 60 plus different doctors all around the country. He went from to every medical doctor to naturopaths to, he kind of went the full end of the spectrum and still wasn't able to become healthy. Until finally he ran into a man named Bud Keith, who said, Jordan, if you follow a diet based on the Bible, you can get healthy. Jordan moved out to San Diego, California, and started eating superfoods. He started eating kefir, a fermented dairy beverage, very similar to the amasi we'll talk about. He started eating, very similar to my mom, juicing vegetables, eating these superfoods. And he did this program for 3 months, and after everything else failed, this diet of eating this way was what brought his body back to health and brought him back to life. He said at one point, it was so bad he literally couldn't crawl out of bed for weeks. That's how sick he was, bruising all over his entire body. But and he remembers praying a prayer one night and just saying to God, he said, God, if you heal me from this, he said, if you heal me from this, I'm going to go on and be your biggest health advocate. And really Jordan has today. Jordan is the author of New York Times bestseller book, The Maker's Diet. He's founder of Garden of Life, which currently is the 7th largest whole food-based supplement company in the entire world, and just has a lot of success. And his vision has always been to do food. Again, he did supplements, he wrote books, but now it really is his goal to bring the healthiest foods on the entire planet to the world today, which is much needed. Really the mission of Beyond Organic is to change the nation and the world by creating superior quality foods. And the other mission of Beyond Organic is to see 1 million people living and eating Beyond Organic by 2020, which is something I know I'm going to personally see, and I know many of you guys watching and here tonight are going to see as well. Again, changing and transforming 1 million lives and helping change the way we eat. The other team, you notice the term Beyond Organic. When we say Beyond Organic, that's not to downplay or say organic is bad. In fact, organic is good. But as Jim Collins says in the book Good to Great, we don't want to be just good. We want to be great. We want to be the best of the best. And I can tell you from working with professional and Olympic level athletes over the years, I worked a few years ago, I went to a national swimming event and work with some of these Olympic medalists, and I'll tell you, their whole mindset the entire time was, what is the best thing I can possibly put in my body right now? If you really think about these Olympic level athletes and what they're doing, they're competing for Olympic gold medals, but you really think about what God called us to do, whether it be your profession. Again, for a lot of people, we have ministries in this life. We're about saving lives. For a lot of us, we're parents. We're raising children. What we do is just as important as what they do. And so we really need to have the mindset, what is the best thing we can possibly put in our body right now? And I can tell you that's Jordan's mindset. He said he created these foods for all of you, but also for himself and his family. And so again, we want to be getting these superfoods on a daily basis. But Beyond Organic is not saying organic is bad. It's just saying we are going for the best we can possibly be. Let's talk about what Beyond Organic actually means. Number one is it's grain-fed. Here's something that shocks some people. If a food is grass-fed, which again is much better than cows that are fed grains, if a cow is fed grass, it actually has higher levels of CLA, higher levels of omega-3 fats. It's a much superior food in terms of its quality and the health benefits it brings. But the standard today of USDA organic grass-fed beef means that these cows only have to be fed grass 30% of the year. 30%, so it's not 100%. You think you're getting 100%, you're not. Again, 30% of the year they're fed grass. And so what that means is it's not going to have the same levels of omega-3s, of CLA, and some of the other nutrients that we want to see in the foods. And so and another thing is a lot of times these cows are grain finished. So they may feed them grass a good part of the year, but they finish them on grains, which means they're not going to be as high in nutrients. So Beyond Organic is, we use the term green fed, which means that cows are fed grass and other things that are green like legumes, herbs, forbs, and things the entire year. The other thing you'll see here is free of pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and other chemicals. All of these chemicals and pesticides have been linked to neurological disorders, ADHD, even things like dementia. We want to stay completely away from these toxins. Also, weight gain. Toxins are stored in your fat cells. You want to stay away from toxins. Next thing you'll see here is no hormones, no antibiotics, and no vaccines. Now, even organic cattle today is vaccinated and immunized. Beyond Organic cattle is the only cattle I know that they do not give any vaccines to whatsoever. Next thing you'll see here, kind animal treatment, sustainable land and soil management. With kind animal treatment, there are some people today that are eating vegetarian diets because they don't approve of the way animals are treated. And I completely agree that most companies do not treat animals in a biblical, kind manner. However, Beyond Organic, all of the beef, all of the cattle is treated as humanely as possible. Everything, including the processing, is all biblical. Non-GMO, genetically modified foods are a major problem today. 86% of corn, soy, and canola are genetically modified foods, and they feed these cows a lot of genetically modified corn. Genetically modified foods, here's what they basically do. They create their own internal pesticides, which is toxic to your system. So you would never want to eat genetically modified foods. You'd never want to get beef or dairy that you're consuming to have been a cow that was eating genetically modified foods. Old world production methods, which means most of these foods are raw or low temperature processed. Fair made, biblically based processing methods. This is very important. This is the only company I know of that is not only organic in most of its procedures, but it's also biblically based. It's kosher / biblically based processing methods. So again, free of chemicals, and the cows are slaughtered in a biblical manner. Just so you know, most cattle today are electrocuted or shot in the head. And when that happens, just like if you would inject toxic or damaging hormones into a cow, same thing. If they are, I mean, can you imagine being electrocuted? That's going to send a serious amount of cortisol throughout your system, which, by the way, is known as the aging hormone. Serious amount of these negative chemicals, and then you're going to be consuming the beef that have those chemicals released in its system. It is not what you want at all. So again, that's another big reason. God said that for a reason. Eating foods biblically, following a biblically based slaughter method. Also, quality and safety are a big deal. Let me talk a little bit about industrial organic versus beyond organic. That's a question I've got from several people asking questions like, well, why would I eat beyond organic foods versus what I would get in a large health food store or a place like that? What's the difference? And I had someone that recently went into it, one of the largest health food stores in the entire country, and he said, I noticed that the product prices were about the same. Why would I buy Beyond Organic? Well, first off, looking up here, industrial organic, milk is pulled from hundreds of facilities all over the country. At Beyond Organic, it is one facility in one area. You know where you're getting your milk. It's not shipped from all different places around the country. That's a big deal. Here's another side note. Most organic companies today have been bought out by other big companies like Pepsi and Coke Company and Hershey and Kellogg and all these other big companies. 90% of organic companies today have been bought out by larger manufacturers. Okay, and the other thing that you'll find is they do industrial shortcuts. Also, in regular organic foods, and many of them, they'll add synthetic nutrients to that. You don't want synthetic nutrients. That's a major problem. Also, a few last things here. We don't know if it's humanely treated. And also here, the fat is skimmed. This is a big deal. You've ever heard of the term the cream of the crop. The cream, the fatty part of milk, that fat is where all your fat-soluble vitamins are, like vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin D, which, the health benefits of vitamin D, I couldn't talk about them enough. They're absolutely amazing. So again, we want these foods as minimally processed as possible. That's one big difference in Beyond Organic. Also to say this, when you're comparing foods, let's say, for instance, just the regular organic versus the Beyond Organic. If a cow is fed grass 100% of the year versus 30% of the year, there's going to be a big difference in nutrient value. In fact, the Journal of Clinical Nutrition did some testing, and they said cows that are fed grass rather than being fed grains have 300 to 500% the amount of CLA as other foods. And CLA has been promoted for lots of different health benefits, including weight loss and cancer. So obviously CLA is a very big deal.